Hi! How are you? I'm good, clearly, as I flew into the screen with all kinds of action and fun. Hello, my name's Olivia. Thanks for coming in to watch my video. Why am I here? I'm here, that's a good question. I want to talk about something that I don't think anyone talks about, at least not enough. When it comes to personal life stuff, I don't really share that much, this is kind of ridiculous coming from me that I want to put this on social media and YouTube and stuff like that. I just want to talk about some facts first of all. Basically, my goal here today is to inform and educate people about overactive bladder, what you can do about it, and why I feel the need to talk about it. Okay, cool. Glad we got that down. Let's start with the facts. Okay, first of all, in case you don't know, my name is Olivia. I am from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and I am 24 years old. And for the vast majority of people in my life may not, or may know, may not, probably don't know that I've had quite the struggle with the symptoms of overactive bladder and sleep enuresis. Okay, so there's a lot of stigma surrounding overactive bladder. To understand what I'm sort of going at is there are 4 key traits to defining overactive bladder. So from what I've gathered from the internet, if you want to know my sources, I'll link them down below. So the first one is urgency. So if you don't know what urgency means, it's the strong need to urinate, and normally it's quite difficult to defer. So you cannot exactly be like, that urge just came on. I think I'm gonna wait about maybe half an hour or so to go to find a washroom, or even start to think about finding a washroom. Most of the time, that kind of urge just kind of goes whoop, and it's really a weird diagram. Most of the time, those kind of urges kind of just come out of nowhere really quickly without any warning. So that's one key trait. The second key trait is urge incontinence, not to be confused with the term urgency. So urge incontinence is the second part of urgency. It is the involuntary leakage, basically leaking minimal to gushing, just any kind of leakage that follows or precedes, or at least is in conjunction with urgency. So urge incontinence, that's the number 2. Then third key trait of overactive bladder is frequency. So frequency, the need to go up to 8+ times during waking hours. Remember that. So that's number 3. And then the fourth key trait is called Nocturia. So Nocturia is the need to go up to 1+ times during the night when you're supposed to be asleep. So if you get that urge, which is sometimes happens to some people, sometimes doesn't, that you need to go to use the washroom, that's called Nocturia. And if you do walk over to the washroom and go urinate or whatever, that 1+ times a night, that can be considered a symptom of overactive bladder. In my opinion, which doesn't really matter because I'm not a doctor, so I think it should be 2+ times. But 1, I think a lot of people go to the bathroom at night, and I don't think anyone thinks about it as a problem. So anyways, and then so those are the 4 key traits of overactive bladder. So what I think is missing in this is actually sleep enuresis. So that's not actually a symptom of overactive bladder. That seems to be in itself, it's its own diagnosis. So cool, we covered the facts of overactive bladder. What does that mean in terms of how it affects people? So I'm going to try and talk in terms of how it affects people in Canada. So because I'm a Canadian, we're going to try and stay with the Canadian-based facts because I don't want to get confused. So Canadians are affected by overactive bladder up to apparently somewhere between 12 and 18% is what they've kind of gauged it at. I think it's more because I don't think many people openly discuss symptoms of overactive bladder. And if you do, you're probably not bringing it forth to your doctor because you're embarrassed, which is why we're talking about it. Okay, so so the symptoms I experience mostly are all of them. The symptoms I experience the most, I would say, are the urgency and urge incontinence together. So when so for me, I'm only starting to learn about this about myself recently, the past 6 months. So this is fairly new to me to start realizing what it feels like when I have to go to the bathroom. You may think that's kind of weird. It's a weird way to say it, but what I mean is my urgency is not like anyone else's for the most part, because my urgency kind of like stays around 0, and then it starts to go up to 2 real quick. And I'm going to say like in a second, it goes up to level 2 out of 10. We're going to gauge it at 10. So it starts around level 0, like no urgency whatsoever, and it goes up to 2. And I'm like, oh god, okay, I need to go to the washroom soon. And then it goes up to 10 within 5 seconds. That is, to me, is a spike in urgency. And that is really uncomfortable because, I don't know, I guess if you're a normal person, or at least, don't want to use the term normal, but if you are a person who goes to the washroom every day, you probably realize that the urgency kind of creeps up and creeps up and creeps up and kind of comes to a high point when you're like, okay, time to go use the washroom. I will now urinate. I will now void my bladder. It's gonna feel great. But I don't kind of get that because the urgency goes from 0 to 100 real quick. So after that, after the urgency happens, a lot of the time, like this happens to me every time I need to go to the washroom. Every time. Going back to the fact that there's 4 symptoms of overactive bladder, that doesn't mean not every single person who suffers from overactive bladder is going to have all 4, but I have all 4. So if I need to go to the washroom upwards of 8 times a day, and I actually don't think, like I have done my bladder voiding charts, tracking, diaries, all that sort of stuff before, and for the most part it stays around 8. Like I'm not using the washroom more than 10 times a day on a regular day. Like that's not happening. But 8 is still high. So basically, when I need to go find a washroom, most of the time it's too late. Not like too late, but most of the time I've already leaked. And the last of the 4 of the overactive bladder symptoms is nocturia. So waking up at night more than one or more times a night to go to the washroom. No, that doesn't happen to me very much because I have the opposite effect. I don't have the point where I'm waking up. I have the point where I'm sleeping and wet in the bed. I wet the bed every single night. It's been crazy annoying. But since I've lived with my entire life, so you can imagine that I just got used to it. So yeah, I'm just used to it at this point. I wet the bed every night. I wear a diaper every night. Sometimes I wet the diaper through and I have to change my bedding every day. Like it doesn't fluctuate from there. So you may ask, why now am I making this video and other videos like this? So it's been a really hard 5 years. I say 5 years because I've been to many specialists and I've been to many doctors and had many procedures and even surgery involved in order to kind of control my overactive bladder. I finally come to a point where I'm kind of on the end of my journey, hopefully, towards solving and kind of conquering the overactive bladder symptoms, because, like I said, I've had surgery and I'm actually going back for a second surgery, because I can't live, no one can live like this. This isn't fun. This isn't something we should be hiding. We shouldn't be ashamed of this. And it's really affecting my day-to-day life. So now I think I might as well just get it out there and kind of let anyone else who's struggling know you're not alone. You may not be to this degree, but there is help that you should be giving to yourself, and you deserve to find help for this. I can just name a few procedures if you want to know more. I'll make more videos about them. But in November 2011, I think, is when I first saw my first urologist, and he was the one who recommended I started taking, I can't even remember the name of the medication at this time, because I've taken I think 5 or 6, 7 different types of medication in order to stop the urgency, incontinence, and all that kind of stuff. And from there, it slowly went into procedures like, well, how big is your bladder? How much can your bladder fill? What kind of urgency does it look like? Let's try pelvic floor muscle therapies, which I did think for like a year or two. And let's inject your bladder with Botox. Let's do that twice. Let's try more types of therapies, and nothing's worked. Nothing's worked at all. Yeah, that's intense. Like, it's not intense for you, but it's intense for me to even like kind of comprehend that all over again. So nothing's worked, and it's really frustrating. My overactive bladder is like a different type. It's on a different level, okay? It's like it wants to be its own kind of like supervillain. So, because I just have the worst kind of overactive bladder I can think of. I've got so many different kinds of stories and different types of experiences I've had to maintain. It's a lot. So basically, I'm now here to talk about kind of like what I'm doing. I'm having surgery again, like I said. So the surgery I had in the beginning was an implantation of an InterStim system. It's a pacemaker for your bladder, in the effect that it kind of like, they put a lead on your sacral nerves and near your tailbone, and then the lead is attached to a little like small device, like smaller than your palm, and it sits in your butt cheek. And then that device, it just kind of continuously, every 16 seconds, it turns off for 8 seconds and goes on for 16 seconds, and it just basically sits on your sacral nerves and just kind of like sends a constant like little electric pulse to your bladder. And that was in November when I got that done, November 8th. For me, November 8th was the like biggest day of my life at this point, because I was so excited to finally get something that would relieve my agonies and stress of having an overactive bladder, and just and boost my confidence. And after surgery and healing, in the weeks following or preceding that day, was difficult because I didn't know when I was supposed to start to feel results. A lot of patients start to feel results immediately, and that would mean that it's just an electric pulse to your nerves, like it should be immediate. So I was wondering, why isn't this working? Why am I still suffering from overactive bladder? See my doctor again. He decided that I will need to get x-rays, which I did the same day, and then we'll go from there. And the x-rays showed that the lead moved. The lead moved just a few millimeters, which isn't the exact, we're not sure if it's the exact cause that it's not working. If it isn't working at all, we're going to redo the surgery, reinsert everything, put a new battery in, and try again. So that's where I'm at, waiting for my surgery date, which might be in 2 months, sounds like. So yeah, it's been quite the wild ride. I'm really not all that thrilled about it, but I've had very few people, little to none, next to none, who've actually experienced this or gone through this in any matter. So I thought by making videos about it and kind of telling my story, I would be able to kind of find some community of people who also have been like going through this, and maybe inform people on how to go through it better than I did. So yeah, that's my story. This was really hard to make. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you do enjoy it, please subscribe, and please like up the video and leave a comment on your experience if you feel brave enough. If I feel brave enough to make this video, you should be able to comment about what you're going through. Or don't do it if you feel pressured. I'm not pressuring you, am I? I hope not. Anyways, thank you for watching today. I really don't know what else to say. I will continue to make videos on my journey and kind of like vlog about the experience and stuff. So hope you're having a great day or night, and hope to see you in the future. Bye-bye.